All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this session of the Board of Revision to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. Today, along with me on the board are Carrie Linklater and Lynn Nesbitt. My name is Mark Boreski, and I will be chairing. Our assessors today are Arka Idarkanov, Matthew Harling, Jennifer Martins. The secretary is Stephen Lunn. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the business assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing the items as shown on our docket today. And Mr. Lund, could you please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony? And I'm assuming that we're having the three different assessors, so we'll have to be having them affirmed as their property comes up. Thank you very much if you could do that.
Madam Assessor, please state your full name.
Jennifer Suzanne Martins.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so affirm.
Thank you. And Mr. Applicant, if you please stand. And please state your full name.
Ben Salnikowski.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
So our first item on the docket is 755 Selkirk Avenue for the 2023 year. Ms. Assessor, when you are ready, could you proceed?
Thank you. This is file number 22-3941. This is for the roll year 2023. The address is 755 Selkirk Avenue and the business assessment ID is 56689. We have an area of 3,341 square feet with a total annual rental value of $29,160, which puts the overall ARV per square foot at $8.73. So we've got a base rent per square foot at $6.23, And then we've got our occupancy costs, which total $8,343, giving us our value of $29,160. Sorry, there is an error on my evidence where it says owner occupied. It should be yes. It's my understanding that this is actually owner occupied. And we do have some rental comparables down at the bottom, ranging from $4 to $11 per square foot. Thank you.
Mr. Applicant, do you have questions about this information that has been presented by the assessor?
Do I have any questions? Yes, I do. First of all, should I be here in the first place? It's my own property and I'm using it for my own personal use. I'm not getting any income from it of any kind. I'm storing my cars, my boats, my canoes. I collect stuff, I do woodworking in there, and I store stuff for a charitable organization. Why do I have to pay? I pay property taxes. Should I be here at all?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't have an opportunity to speak to you before the hearing, but none of the stuff stored in there is for any sort of business?
No.
Okay, then no, you shouldn't.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Almost. I'm assuming, though, Mr. Applicant, you don't have any more questions then of the assessor?
Well, no, if she says that we're done, we're done. I mean,
I'll just turn to the panel to ask if they have any questions. Ms. Linklater?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Nesbitt?
Yeah, just one. Ms. Martins, have you inspected or been in this property to see what it's being used for?
No, I did speak to one of my colleagues who had, and he did say that it was being used for storage, which is why the rate on the property is, it is a storage rate. It's not a rate that we would use for an actual business premise where business is being held there. But if everything in there is for personal use, then we shouldn't have a business assessment on there.
you're welcome. Anytime. Fine.
Ms. Nesbitt, any other questions?
Yeah, so what is your process then going forward on this property?
It's my plan that I will be taking the business out of that, and then it will continue to be taxed property tax, but then it'll be taxed similar to someone's home. It'll just be property tax. There's no business being run out of there.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Martins.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
No other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. My question is, do you have handy, Ms. Martins, the section of the Act that describes what is accessible for business assessment?
I don't know it. I don't know the numbers offhand, but property that is being used simply for personal purposes do require to be taxed. But if this is just a building that he owns that is being used for personal purposes and he's not running a business out of it, there is no business that we should be licensing in there.
All right, that's all my questions. That concludes the first item on the docket. The second one is the same property, but for 2021. Before anything else, Ms. Martins, can you explain why are we dealing with 2021 here?
Because it was a supplemental.
I see, all right.
Did you want me just to read in the file number?
Yes.
And okay.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
This is file number 22-3929. This is for rural year 2021 for 755 Selkirk Avenue with a business assessment ID of 56689. We've got an ARV of 24,540. And similar to what we heard about the 2023 of this, it's my intention to vacate the business out of here.
All right. Mr. Applicant, I assume that you don't have any questions about that then?
No, ditto.
Okay, Ms. Linklater?
I do have one question to the assessor. Good morning, Ms. Martins. I'm just curious as to how this appeared in the first place on the business assessment.
It would be that one of the staff here did an inspection, and it could be that they misunderstood what was being stored in there and whether it was being used as storage for a business, because if it is storage for a business, then it is assessable as for a business tax.
And I'm going to assume then that 2021 was the first time it appeared?
Yes.
All right. I thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Nesbitt?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So I'm wondering why a SUP was issued. SUP was issued for 21, not for 22. What was the circumstance here, Ms. Martins?
I'm not 100% sure, but it's my understanding that there is a tenant in the building, and they were being assessed for business.
No.
Okay, hang on a second, Mr. Applicant.
Was there not a fire protection something renting a portion?
All right. Let's.
There were no changes at all at any time. It was the same. We were in there for a number of years, for a long time. You know, there were no changes between 21 and 22 or 23. I've had cars there forever, you know.
In that case, Ms. Martins, you will be treating this one the same as the previous one then and taking it off the business assessment roll. Is that correct?
Yes, I will.
All right. Well, I think that concludes this one then. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. We will be issuing orders, and obviously the assessor will be taking care of this matter as she has described. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your cooperation. Clearing this up. I didn't understand. Okay, anyway, we're done. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice holiday.
You too.
Oh, big dinner coming up next week.
The next one on our agenda is number 3177 Forbes Road. And who is our assessor for this one?
It's Mr. Harling, so just give me a moment to.
All right.
Ms. Martins, is it okay if I put you in the wait room until your next item?
Thank you very much.
Except they gotta do.
Mr. Harling, you can hear us okay?
I can, yes, thank you.
And you've turned off your YouTube stream?
I was actually not using it, so
Okay. So I'll just affirm you very quickly, Mr. Harling. Please state your full name.
Matthew Harling.
Affirm that the evidence you're about to give this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And then I'll be affirming both of you, so if you'll both down. And whoever would like to start first, please state your full name.
Rodney Patrick Bennett.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, and you may be seated, and please state your full name.
Elliot Bennett.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, you may be seated.
Hey, Mr. Harling, when you are ready, could you proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 2023 business assessment value for the, the 2023 roll year for the business assessment value for 2023 assessment for 177 Forbes Road is $61,380 is the annual rent value. Again, the address is 177 Forbes Road. The business assessment ID is 52279. Business name is Air Strength Canada, and the owners are number company 5810648 Manitoba Limited. So if we just look at the bottom of my brief under the subject bid information, again, we'll see the address of the subject property here, or the subject business here. The premise area, the total area we're assessing is 9,984 square feet. We're applying a model rate of $4.25 a square foot, which gives us a base annual rental value of $42,432. If you look at to the right of that, under occupancy costs, you'll see that we are assessing for heat and electricity under full areas. Water and air conditioning have been exempt because those services are not being used for the building there, so, or for this space, we have exempt those. So our total occupancy costs are $18,970. And for the occupancy costs, we are using essentially the rates. You'll see the rates we're using here that we apply to all our business assessments. That being said, though, I do have actually a recommendation, though. We're at 61,380. So I'm recommending to revise the annual rent value to $55,000. And that would be based on adjusting the annual rental value, the base annual rental value per square foot from $425 to $360. And that's just based on this some information I was able to gain from the space. The space is of lower quality from what I understand from other assessors who are familiar with this property and this space. So I'm making a recommendation to $55,000 is what my recommendation would be, to revise the assessed value to, or assessed annual rental value to. So that's what I'm proposing. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Applicants, is that amount acceptable to you? If it is, we can draw this to a close fairly quickly. But do you still contest that value?
Yes and no, it would be my answer. We would like to get some more clarification on the total occupancy costs, how the number of 1,970 has come to be.
All right. In that case, we will proceed. And I'll assume that was essentially posed as a question. Mr. Harling, could you answer that, please?
Yes, the occupancy costs essentially are, as you see under the heat and electricity, we have the rates. We have to see the different rates we use. These rates are from, we actually, when we receive income expense minutes from properties throughout the city, we gather these rates from the market. So these are actually based on market rates we're using. I understand there'll be some variations from property to property, but these are the same rates we use for all properties throughout the city, and we're legislated to kind of essentially to be equitable in the sense of how we assess our occupancy costs. So it's across the board, we're using the same occupancy costs. So that's essentially how we get them. And if you look at the 9984, that's the area that's being assessed. So that's why we're just taking that area multiplied by that occupancy costs to get our total occupancy costs. So that's essentially how we derive the occupancy costs.
Okay, so our actual occupancy costs are $7,000.
Before you get into actually giving us your information, we'll do a round of questions first, just about what the assessor has provided. Do you have additional questions about this information?
Well, I guess you mentioned that we're mandated to follow that value.
Well, essentially, like I said, like when it comes to occupancy costs throughout the city, when we assess businesses, we essentially are using the same rates across the board through every property. So based on our Manitoba Municipal Assessment Act, which is the legislation, when we assess properties, we are required to use the same rates across the board. So we're equitable in the sense of how we assess business occupancy costs for all businesses. So I am mindful though that there are going to be variations in each owner's occupancy costs, but that's how we assess it. So.
Okay, and then a follow-up question would be, if the difference is substantial, does that warrant a reduction of our total occupancy costs?
Well, like as I said, like unfortunately, like I mean, like I said, that's how we have to assess it like that. So that would be something, I guess, obviously, if the Board of Revision, since we're here, if they you know, that's a decision they would have to make on that. So, like I said, the proposal I've provided is making an adjustment on the rent. So, you know, so but yeah, no, unfortunately, there's nothing I can. That's essentially how we assess it. So yeah, so I understand there's going to be variations, but that's how we assess it though.
So what that variation does for us though is it pushes us over the small business tax credit limit, which we should actually in reality fall under with our actual hydro numbers. So we're getting basically our numbers pumped up in order for the city of Winnipeg to collect taxes off of us.
Is there a question here?
Are you able to follow actual numbers?
Unfortunately, no. Like I said, as I stated, we use essentially we are using the rates that we have applied from the market. So no, unfortunately, no, we don't.
Okay, so is there a way for us to dispute that?
Well, I guess that would be why we're here today, essentially. So.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about right now. Is this total occupancy cost is way beyond what we've ever been, more than double. So that's where you're kind of losing us as far as where our business taxes kind of come into play with this building as a one-off. It's not the greatest building, you know, the 360 per square foot, it makes sense to us, but it's the total occupancy cost. This is a very energy efficient building and it can be even more energy efficient. So for instance, if we put solar panels on and we're producing power and our actual costs are $4,000, are we still going to be dinged at $18,000 and therefore pushed over this threshold of our small business tax credit? Because in reality, we're not there.
Well, I would like to just note that regarding the small business tax credit, the number that actually is not the current number for the current small business tax credit. It actually changes year by year. So the city council hasn't set the business tax credit yet, so we don't know what that number is going to be. So I can't speak to that specifically at this point. But yes, I understand your point though, and I completely understand where you're coming from though. So
even 2021 would be, we could go back to 2021 and it still drops us below the 44.2. That's really our big discrepancy here. Is this occupancy cost and our operation running of the building is just not what these
Sir, do you
numbers are.
have any further questions for the assessor prior to giving us your evidence?
Do you have any questions?
No,
No, we don't.
No.
All right, then I'll turn to Ms. Linklater. Do you have questions of the assessor?
I do. Mr. Harling, I didn't quite get on your recommendation what your rent was that you were recommending.
it was the revised rent would have been $3.60 a square foot.
I thank you. And I see that you've got rent comparables at the bottom of your brief.
Yes, I'll be honest with you. I'm not really putting much weight on these comparables. These are, I would dispute that these are better leases in the subject property, and you know, the subject property I'm aware of. It is more of a poor quality, so that's why I made that recommendation on that rent. So yeah, I do have comparables just because I want to show some comparables, but I would argue that these are superior. So that's why I'm not really putting significant weight on these. So
Exactly. All right. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Ms. Nesbitt?
Mr. Harling, have you inspected this property?
I personally have not. I've spoken to other assessors who have in the past, so that's kind of why I was able to get some information regarding the quality of the space, and we have notes on this property too. So, but I haven't physically inspected myself. No.
Okay, so the 994 square feet, that's been the area of record for the last little while.
Yeah, I believe that's the lease that we have on the mailer that we received. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, and you did mention that these are model rates for the occupancy costs that are used for every business in the city, right?
Yes, I mean, the rates themselves would not be considered model though. Like essentially it's derived into our model, but the rates themselves are actually based off of market rates that we're finding. When we get the mailers, that's how we compile the rates. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, sorry, thank you for clarifying that.
No problem.
Okay, then I have no additional questions. Thank you.
Mr. Harling, could you just clarify for us what parts of this information are actually open to appeal? We have, base rent. We have the area of the property, whether it has heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning. But are the rates themselves a matter that is subject to appeal?
Like I said, since we apply those, like I said, we're applying those across the board for all businesses. So typically it would be the rental value, but I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, this is something I'll have the board make their decision on. So, but.
So are you suggesting that the board could change, say, the rate for heat or not?
Well, I mean, I'm just stating like overall, like board typically it would just be the base rent is what the board really would make their decision on. Like I said, the occupancy costs, we have it set like that. That's how we have it set. So I can't speak to what, I don't know the specifics of that, of what the board can change on that. I'll be honest with you, I don't know the specifics of that. So.
All right, thank you very much. That's all my questions. So then, applicants, could we have your information, please?
What would you like exactly?
Well, you've told us basically what the crux of your argument is. Could you go over that again, please, to say why you think this amount that he is recommending of $55,000 is in error?
Okay, so currently for 2023, we're at a total of 61,380, which consists of there was an original base rent of 42,432. That's now been dropped to 360 a square foot. The total cost to occupy is the discrepancy. The calculations that the city of Winnipeg is doing is rounding up to 18,969, and our total occupancy costs for January 21 to December 2021 is $7,577.02, and that's our total energy usage, which the city of Winnipeg has at 18,969. So it's a discrepancy of $11,391.98.
Could you just repeat that number? That's 7,000 and something?
$7,577.02.
Thank you.
And that is 2021 January to December energy usage. So the difference is $11,391.98. It's over double. And that's where we've never been even close to 18,000. I mean, the 7,577 would probably be our, whatever 2022 has been, would be our current highest year ever. And we're not much higher than that. We're probably at 8,000 something. So there's a major discrepancy here. And then what that does is it pushes us over the previous threshold of 44,200, which we know that there's a small business tax credit there that we feel with the state of the building and, our actual usage costs, that's where it lands. Should we be being pulled up by everybody else who's inefficient, essentially?
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Harling, you have questions about that?
I guess the only question I was just curious, do you know what the previous annual rental value was for the previous assessment cycle? I just wasn't sure. I didn't check it because I noticed you had in your information here. You said it was 53,520. Was that what is that what it was last cycle when you had it at that you remember? Or
yeah, let me just pull that up. I have it here. I think it was.
Okay. Okay, I just want to make sure that's all. No, that's all the questions I have. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
And could you repeat that number, please, Mr. Harling?
53,520, I believe. Yeah, 53,520 is what it shows in your information.
Okay.
That sounds right. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, do you have other questions, Mr. Harling?
I have no further questions.
Ms. Linklater?
Yes, just one question to the applicant. Could you speak to the condition of the building?
The condition of the building, it's about a 40-year-old building now.
Yeah,
It's multiple kind of complexes bound together. There's been some repairs done to things that need to be structurally repaired. 50% of the building doesn't even have a poured concrete floor, so it's an open floor type of space. The building itself, it's hanging in there. It's no diamond, I would say, but it's a good building. It serves its purpose. If you want me to elaborate further, the property itself, it's in a rural residential area. So it's a quiet business that operates out of there, and it's mostly just storage. Like, we're in the tropical plant business. It's a purpose-built building from a previous company that was in our industry in the 80s. And it's great for tropical plants. It's got a massive roof with skylights, which it's why we're so energy efficient. Essentially, we get a lot of solar, sun, heat energy that we can ride out. And I between an $18,000 bill and a $7,000 bill, like, that just speaks to how this building is actually operating. It's fairly efficient, which is surprising, but it just is.
We also have recycling, we recycle water, rainwater. We are looking at solar panels for even further reduction in power usage. Like, there's no city services as far as garbage pickup. We pay for that. There's no bus service. Anything that goes on in there is at our cost, which we have no problem with anything. But we're keying in on this building because it's got the potential to be like a real green building, and we would like to take it there. But when we see we're being pushed way over realistic limits for power consumption, then it becomes, well, this is something to talk about because it's not factual. We're looking for factual things, that this building is going to be a model for us going forward. We want to have as efficient as possible. That's our goal in today's world. We're not trying to present something that it isn't. We're working on. That's why, like, we've had this whole roof line. If you take a look at it, if you've got a picture of it, you'll see it's all basically radiant panels that bring in the warmth, bring in the sunlight. So we don't even. There's days or weeks we don't even have to put the lights on in there. That's why you can see the droppage in the usage. The furnaces are set at 20. We don't need anything more than that. There's nobody works in there on a regular basis. There's just we do light maintenance in there or assembly of plants that are going out. This is just a logistics holding area, and we bring in the water for it. It's all at our cost. And then any sewage pumped out, our cost.
Yeah, so the state of the building, it's in good condition. It's not in fantastic condition. We can't operate like a storefront out of there. We know that. It's a limited use property. And even with going against the comparables, they all have different zoning, for instance, which it just adds more value, and they have additional services that we just do not have. So the 360, that makes sense to us. It's really coming down to the total occupancy costs. Our costs are just not that. And to be pulled up by these numbers, it just, it doesn't seem right to us. And that's kind of why we're here.
All right.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Ms. Nesbitt, questions?
No, I have no additional questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is your heating electric heat or is it gas?
It's natural gas.
It's gas, okay.
Which we're looking at.
I see you provide. Come again, please.
We're looking at ways to become more energy efficient.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the world's going, and we're trying to get there. But this is basically a penalty for that, if you want to look at it like that.
And if I look at the information that you gave us, you have some written information, and then you have hydro bills. Just if you could, please tell me, these hydro bills are they these are your monthly bills?
Yeah, that's all of 2021. Just that comes up to that 757702 number. That's where even looking back into 2021 with the 53,520, you know, our occupancy costs would have been higher back then too, which also then pushes us over this small business tax credit amount.
All right, that is all my questions. Therefore, we have concluded this one. Thank you very much. Appreciate your coming in and giving us this information. We will be deliberating later on today and making our decisions. You will receive an order in the mail as quickly as we can get it out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it.
The next item on our docket is 797 Aaron Street.
We have no applicant present at the moment.
So let's put this one then down at the bottom.
And Mr. Chair, if we could go into a brief recess,
Yes, we could.
just for 2 minutes.
Sure. We are then proceeding with item 7 on our docket today, which is 2627 Portage Avenue, Unit B. We need to have the applicant affirmed, and do we have a different assessor for this one?
It is Ms. Martins as our assessor again, and she's already been affirmed. So,
And if you could proceed with the affirming of the applicant.
Ms. Applicant, please state your full name.
My full name, Melissa June Nero.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Assessor, when you're ready, could you proceed, please?
Thank you. This is file number 22-3930. This is for roll year 2022. It's Unit B, 2627 Portage Avenue, with the business assessment ID of 56680. Business is West Side Iron Training and Therapy. We have a total annual rental value of $116,820. We have an area of 8,740 square feet, which gives us an overall ARV per square foot at $13.37. If we look down, we've got 2 premises under this one. The first one, the area is 5,095 square feet. And to that, there is a per square foot rent of $13.51, with the cost to occupy being $12,483 for that premise. The annual rental value is $81,300. The second premise area is 3,645 square feet, with a base ARV per square foot of $7.64. And with the cost to occupy, noting that this area does not have air conditioning, the cost to occupy is $7,691, giving us an annual rental value on that portion of $35,520. When we add those together, that gives us the $116,820. And again, I believe from what I read that this actually is owner occupied. So for the subject lease information being owner occupied, I believe it should be yes, but I'm not 100% sure. Down further below, we have some rental comparables, and they have a rent ranging from $13.50 to $15 down below. That's everything. Thank you.
Ms. Nero, do you have questions about this information? Just ask her questions about what she has provided rather than giving us your information. But just if you need some clarification about what she has presented, could you do so?
Mm. Um, I don't think I have any questions.
All right, then I'll turn to the panel. Ms. Linklater, do you have questions?
Yes, just a couple of questions. Did you inspect the property, Ms. Martins?
No, I did not.
Okay. And in regards to your rent comparables, are any of those, and I'm going to assume this is a fitness facility of some sort?
I believe I was trying to find, but I've been doing so many briefs, I can't remember if any of these are fitness facilities.
Okay, and are they owner occupied?
No, if they were owner occupied, they would not be giving us rental information.
Okay, thank you. That is all my questions.
Ms. Nesbitt?
Yes, thank you. I do have a question. I know you indicated that you're not sure if it's owner occupied, but yet you've provided subject lease information. And that subject lease information, the rent per square foot is lower than what you've applied in your base ARV for that same square foot. Can you explain then? I appreciate you're not sure, but then yet we have this presented in front of us. So I'm just trying to understand it myself.
The information that gets sent in by the owners of the properties on the income and expense mailers that we send out, that is entered into our system. It's very common for owners of properties to apply a rent for their own sections that they're occupying for business purposes, for accounting and whatever. And we treat those as not arm's length. So yes, there is a rent put here. However, if the person who is occupying the space is the same person that owns the property, then it's fair to assume that it's not a market arm's length lease. And as has been common, we don't take the income and expense mailers and apply all of the rental information into the system as the method of valuation for the properties in the city.
Okay, so I appreciate that explanation. Thank you. But again, you indicated you weren't sure if it was owner occupied.
No, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, I guess we'll hear from the applicant and she can tell us that. Thank you.
She would probably know for sure.
Yeah, thank you. No more questions, Mr. Chair.
All right. You've described the two premise IDs as two premises.
Yeah.
But one premise gets one assessment notice. This is actually just two parts of the same premise. Like what can you describe this more so I'm clear on what this is?
This is commonly done when a business is occupying a space in a property and they have like one area that's a front area that is better quality and is perhaps ready for the public to enter, and the other section, seeing as there's no air conditioning, if this is like a storage area, or and if you see the difference in the rental values, this looks like it's perhaps a lower quality. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but that it's just not finished in the same way that they would an area where they would have clients or members of the public walking through there.
Can you tell me anything more about it? Because if you're describing this, since it's not air conditioned, there's perhaps storage, and yet the total occupied or occupancy costs are, 12,000 versus 7,000. The premise area is 5,000 versus 3,600. This is a substantial amount of it that is actually storage.
If you look at that, we've got 5,095 square feet, the top row, and that shows that it's attributed the heat at 60 cents per square foot, and the electricity at $1.26 per square foot, and the water at 25 cents per square foot, and the air conditioning at 34 cents per square foot. Where the second line has all of those, and those are calculated according to the premise area. And you see that there's a 1 for the air conditioning, meaning that in that area, we can't put any zeros. It shows an error if we put a 0 in the calculation. So it's just 1. So when you look at that, it's very commonly done. And you see that the rent for that space, as I said, I haven't been to the property. I have not inspected the property. So I can't give you a full explanation of the spaces. But somebody from my department did put this in a way that's very common with businesses that have 2 separate looking areas. And this one obviously is a different quality of finish because it does have a rent that is $7.64 as opposed to $13.51. And it doesn't have air conditioning. So I'm not sure exactly what is in these. I can only assume that the finish is somewhat different and the use would be somewhat different. But it's very popular for businesses to have 2 different areas, whether it's a workspace or a storage space and storefront or office space. So this is a very common thing for businesses to have.
So you weren't at the property, but an assessor was there and measured these 2 areas and noted that the one area was for storage. Is that correct?
I don't know if it's for storage. It's my assumption that it's a different quality of finish, which could be used as workspace or storage space, or just space that isn't for the public.
Okay, that's all my questions. And Ms. Nero, could we have your information, please?
Yes, do you, is that the information that I submitted, or are you wanting me to comment on this?
You can refer to it, give us whatever information you feel we need in order to make a decision.
Okay. I'll try to clarify a little bit of this space. We agreed to lease 5,095 square feet. We did not agree to lease 8,740 square feet. However, there is a basement portion that makes up for that 3,645 square foot area, which we do also occupy. That was just sort of given, I suppose. So that's one part. We do occupy both floors with fitness equipment, and we finished the flooring up in the main floor where people enter the building. At the very front, there's a retail space, and I provide like our name of our business. We do training and therapy. I'm an athletic therapist, and I provide therapy treatments in 2 rooms on the main floor. So that's very much a nicer area, like the assessor said, for the public. The rest is kind of rugged space with some rubber flooring, proper fitness flooring put down to just host the equipment and for people to walk on. The basement also has locker rooms, so that occupies a great amount of that space, and showers in there for the members. I wouldn't disagree with the reported rent per square foot as far as what it looks like on this assessment for all these other comparables. I think that the time that we captured this facility to be able to open a business, we sort of capitalized on the fact that it was during the COVID years, and this facility had sat open vacant with a lot of difficulties getting a tenant for over 3 years. We had gotten what we thought at the time was a very good deal. Our original rent was $5 per square foot, with common area fees of $6 per square foot. Today it is the $11.38 total. And that's just on the $5,095 is what we pay towards. So the other evidence I gave some evidence just of other properties I found with similar reported rent, as the assessors indicating here for comparables. But what I also provided was that, unbeknownst to us when we moved in, there is a lot of foundation issues, a lot of water leaking. So our basement, even though we allow members to come in, right now it's okay, it's winter. But we've been dealing with a lot of water leaks, and it is not a very, it requires a lot of maintenance to upkeep and to allow people to come in safely and monitor the area for water. The owner does occupy the above, there's 2 floors and a basement. The owner does occupy the above floor and is unwilling to address any of the issues at this time. So they will not assist us, and that wasn't something we expected to have to handle. So I feel like the value of the space could be assessed at a lower value. This is all very new to me. So when I take that annual rental value of 116,000, and I see that it's multiplied by 0.04, I don't have all that information in front of me, but I remember that was being multiplied by that. That comes out to being more like $22 per square foot. So I'm kind of, I guess I just question how that's calculated like that. And I think that's the end of my evidence. That's all I really have.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Martins, do you have questions about this? Ms. Martins?
Yes, sorry, I was just finding the mute button. In the building, is the cost of the repairs put onto you, or is does your landlord pay for the repairs themselves?
They would pay for those types of repairs, being that it is the building structural components.
Sorry, okay, so this is a 2022 assessment. So as of April 1st, 2018, what was your rent?
We were not renting at that time.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Ms. Linklater?
Yes, just one question. Ms. Nero, do you have a number that you would like? The city is giving, has a number of 116,820.
Yes, we 76,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
May I ask one quick question?
Certainly.
How was that 76,000 calculated?
Again, I'm absolutely not an expert, and I am just trying to take the square footage that we agreed to pay rent on, and the current amounts that were the net rent that we're paying towards that.
Perfect, thank you.
Ms. Nesbitt?
So Ms. Nero, I am confirming that you lease, you're not the owner, correct? Okay. And the total rent that you do pay, you indicated on the 5,095 square foot space is 1138.
Yes.
And what does that include?
That includes our property taxes, common area expenses for just grounds maintenance, snow removal, that I guess that would all be in there. That's it.
Okay, and do you pay a rent on the 3,645 square foot space?
No, we do not.
But you have access to it and you can use it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
All right. That was very helpful information. The smaller area, the 3,645, that is the basement portion, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. And that is all of my questions. Thank you very much for appearing today. We will be making our decision relatively shortly, and then it'll be sent to you in the form of an order in the mail, and we will try to get that out to you as quickly as possible. Thanks for coming.
Wonderful. Thank you for hearing me.
Sure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I will remove Ms. Martins here.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then which item will we be proceeding to, Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Which item will we be proceeding to?
Well, let's first of all consider 1919 Portage Avenue. Is Mr. Neufeld available yet?
No, I don't
He is not. If he is not, then we will adjourn that
believe
item.
so. Just admit. Okay. Just admitting the assessor for that, so we can inform him.
All right. Well, maybe. Have you admitted him already?
He is in the yes, he's been admitted.
All right. And who is the assessor for 797 Aaron?
That would be Mr. Harling.
Okay, but it's a different person for 1919. All right, you've admitted him. Well, proceed.
Yeah. And you'd like me to affirm him?
No, if we are adjourning 1919 Portage Avenue, he just needs to be informed that it is being adjourned without it being addressed at all.
Okay. All right,
So,
Mr. Assessor, we're going to that item.
is he muted?
I think he froze.
Something happened. There was, I guess, I didn't hear what was said
All right.
today.
We are adjourning this item, so we will not deal with this item on the docket.
Okay, I see.
Thank you very much.
Good.
And I will, Mr. Harling, for
Don't yet. No, do not admit him yet, please.
Are we going to recess?
Well, yes, we need to recess. Arling, could you please give us your information?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a 2023 business assessment appeal. The address is 797 Aaron Street. The business assessment ID is 19890, and the owners are Winnipeg Plaza. The 2023 assessed value based on the urban state of April 1st, 2021 is $224,500. So we go to in my brief, to the subject bid, again, see the address. The premise area is 15,671 square feet. We're using a model rent of $5.76 a square foot, which gives us a base annual rent value of $90,265. Now, if we look to the right under occupancy costs, you'll see that we are fully assessing under heat, electricity, and water for the occupancy costs for the total area. And we only have 1,600 square feet of an area being assessed for air conditioning. And then above that, you'll just see the rates we are applying. So the total occupancy costs are $34,253. If you add that to the base annual rent value, we get a total annual rent value of $124,500. Just quickly here, subject lease information. This is owner occupied property, or lease, I guess, their property. And then just below that are some of my rent comparables. So you'll see that they range from 10,010 square feet to 19,795 square feet. And the lease net rents range from $5.75 a square foot to $8.78 a square foot. And then you'll just see the premise area addresses or the comparables again. They're all very close, like 1574 Erin, St. Matthews Avenue. So these are all within the close to the subject region. And if we go to page 2 and 3 in my brief, that just shows some subject property maps of where the lease of the building that's being leased is located. And then just on pages 4 and 5 are just some photos of the actual building that's being leased. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Mrs. Linklater, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Nesbitt?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Harling, you've applied an overall rent or ARV rather of $794. The base rent is $576. So the $576 is towards the low end, very close to the low end of the comps that you've provided here.
Correct, yeah.
What were your criteria for selecting these in comparison with the subject?
Well, part of the reason would be, or the main reason would be, again, similar reported leasable areas. And I also looked into the buildings themselves. I actually went a bit further and looked into the areas of the buildings, or the age of the buildings, wall heights, and locations. So I have the information regarding all these comparables, or regarding all the building components of it, just to make sure the buildings would be comparable in terms of the leasable space. So yeah, I kind of looked at the whole picture, like building area, wall height, effective year built, and such forth. So,
all right, that's my only question. So thank you very much. That means we have dealt with this one, and that means we have concluded everything on our docket for today. And therefore, this session of the Board of Revision is adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Panel members, let's take a